Before the angel ever spoke, the air changed. It was subtle at first, a strange silence in the trees. A pause in the pattern of the wind. The birds that usually sang at dawn had gone quiet. And the prophets? They felt it in their bones. "Something is coming," whispered an old man in the marketplace. "But it's not judgment. It's justice." The sky didn't split open. The earth didn't shake. But heaven was holding its breath. And somewhere, a scroll was being unsealed. The people of Ashenvale had grown tired. Not tired in body, but in soul. They had worshipped, fasted, believed. And still, the harvest had not come. The promises had lingered. The healings were slow. The vision felt delayed. They weren't doubting God. They were doubting if he still remembered. One morning, just before sunrise, a cry echoed through the valley. Not from a man. Not from an animal. But from the wind itself. A sound like a trumpet, but no instrument. A vibration like thunder. But no storm. And then came a whisper, soft but undeniable, "The old season has been judged. A new decree has been spoken." Elias, a watchman on the wall, fell to his knees. His eyes wide with holy fear. His lips trembling. "Lord," he gasped. "What are you doing?" A blinding light appeared over the mountain ridge. Not lightning, this was alive. From the center of it stepped a figure with wings woven in gold. His robes shimmered like rivers of glass. In his hand, he held a scroll sealed with 7 drops of fire. He did not announce his name. He didn't need to. The land knew. "The angel of declaration," someone whispered. "The one who only comes when heaven shifts seasons." The angel unsealed the scroll and read aloud, not in human language, but in spirit. And everyone who had been faithful in the last season heard it, in their dreams, in their prayers, in their inner man. To the ones who did not bow. To the ones who did not curse the silence. To the remnant who stayed pure in the famine, the new season is not coming. It is here. It has been decreed. And what was withheld will now be released. The heavens thundered with agreement. The mountains echoed with praise. And a holy trembling swept through the people. The angel lifted his eyes and added, "But not all will enter. Only those who recognize that this new season requires new obedience." That night, for the first time in a century, the moon turned red over Ashenvale. But it did not bring fear, it brought confirmation. The old has passed. The doors that refused to open before will now unlock. The voices once silenced will now sing. And the angel? He did not leave. He simply waited, scroll in hand, for the people to decide, would they stay in mourning for a season God had already ended? Or would they step into what had already been written? Word spread like wildfire. From the outer villages and the stone houses in the hills, they came, young and old, rich and poor, leaders and laborers. They didn't know exactly what they were looking for. But something in their spirit said, "Don't miss this." They arrived at the foot of the mountain where the angel stood, still glowing, still silent. Not a single word had left his lips since the first decree. He simply held the scroll out in front of him, waiting. And then, finally, he opened his mouth again. "The scroll contains what has been waiting for you. But it will only be read by those who are ready to walk away from what once defined them." As the angel broke the second seal, a surge of divine light burst from the parchment. It wasn't blinding, it was clarifying. People who had lived under confusion felt something snap off their minds. No more fog. No more wondering if God was near. Now, they knew, he was moving. And he was calling them into movement. The scroll read in flame-like letters that danced before every eye, "Your delay is over. Your drought is ending. The fields you thought were dead are waking up. Not because of your striving, but because the season has shifted. But this was no shallow encouragement. It was a summons. Each section of the scroll contained instructions. To the prophets, speak again. Your voice has been restored. To the builders, pick up your tools. What you build now will last for generations. To the wounded, come forward. Your scars will become signs. To the watchers, stay on the wall. The enemy will try one last time. To the forgotten, heaven never forgot you. Your name is written in bold. As the final part of the scroll was revealed, the wind changed direction. And then, a sound ripped through the sky like fabric being torn. People fell to their knees. Some wept. Some worshipped. And then, in the heavens above them, they saw it. A crack opening across the sky, revealing gold light that seemed to pour out over the valley. It's the vault, an elder gasped. The storehouses of heaven are opening. Rain began to fall. But it wasn't like any rain they had ever known. It smelled of myrrh and roses. It healed as it touched. It carried promises. Children who had never walked began to run. Elders whose hands had curled from years of pain were lifting them in praise. The barren began to dance with the joy of wombs awakened. And the angel declared, this rain is not water. It is prophecy. Every drop carries a word that was held in the heavens, now released. But not all rejoiced. Some stood in pride, unwilling to surrender their old ways. Unwilling to admit that they'd grown hard during the waiting. To them, the angel spoke with sorrow, this new season will bless the humble but break the proud. You cannot wear old garments in a time of new glory. Those who clung to old offenses and jealousies felt the weight grow heavy. While those who laid down their control felt joy flow freely. As part 2 ends, the angel makes one final declaration, this is not revival. This is realignment. Heaven is not only bringing power, heaven is restoring order. He points toward the east, where dawn was breaking. In 3 days' time, the next sign will come. Be ready. And be holy. Because the next scroll holds names. On the third sunrise, exactly as the angel had declared, the ground began to tremble, not in fear, but in anticipation. The sky was heavy with fire-touched clouds. The people waited, some with hope, some with trembling, all with eyes lifted. And then it happened. A second scroll, smaller but brighter, descended from heaven, spinning like a living flame. The angel, still standing at the mountain's edge, caught it midair with grace and authority. The angel turned toward the people and spoke. This scroll is not for nations. It is for names. Heaven has heard the faithful. Heaven has remembered those who remained when others walked away. This is the list of those who will carry the oil of the next season. A hush fell. The angel broke the seal, and the moment he did, names began to rise into the air, glowing like embers and speaking directly into hearts. Not shouted. Not read aloud. Received. Each name came with an assignment, whispered by the Spirit. You will be a voice to the lost. You will write songs that break chains. You will restore broken homes. You will build cities of refuge. You will fund movements you haven't even seen yet. Many were shocked. Some of the names that lit the sky were unknown. They were the quiet ones. The rejected. The misjudged. The ones no platform wanted, but heaven had preserved. God does not choose by popularity, Elion, the angel, declared. He chooses by purity. And for every name that rose, another soul broke in holy surrender. Not out of envy, but awe. One of the names burned brighter than the rest, Elias. The once disheartened watchman. The one who had wept in secret. The one who nearly gave up in the waiting. He stepped forward, knees shaking, as the angel held out a mantle, woven in flames, embroidered with ancient script. You were faithful when heaven was quiet, the angel said. Now you will speak when heaven pours out. Elias fell to his face as the mantle wrapped around his shoulders like warm oil. The last name floated upward, a child's name. Everyone gasped. The little girl, barely 7 years old, lifted her head from her mother's lap, her eyes wide with light. She will speak dreams. She will hear secrets hidden from kings. She will sing what prophets could not utter. Tears flowed freely. Heaven was not only raising the mature, but also preparing the next generation. The season has shifted, the angel said. And heaven is building a people, not a platform. As the chosen ones gathered, a second wave of presence fell. This wasn't the kind of glory that knocks you down, this was the kind that raises you up. They stood taller. Walked stronger. Spoke clearer. And everywhere they went, the atmosphere followed them. Chains broke. Walls crumbled. Hope rose. Not because of who they were, but because of whose name was written on their hearts. The mantles weren't garments, they were declarations. They came not in cloth, but in calling. Not tailored to the body, but to the burden each person was created to carry. As each chosen name received their mantle, something changed. Not just in the person, but in the air around them. Demons trembled. The earth responded. Doors that had been sealed for decades began to unlock on their own. One woman, whose voice had been silenced by spiritual abuse, stood up wearing a mantle of fire. You will sing songs that awaken sleeping hearts, the angel said. The very voice they tried to silence will shake foundations. Once mantled, each person was given their mission. These weren't titles. They were blueprints. Sacred maps for what they were born to do. Some were called to rebuild ruined cities. Others were sent to the hidden places, underground churches, broken homes, war-torn lands. A few were sent back to places that once rejected them. Elias was called not to preach in palaces, but to raise watchers across villages. His job wasn't to gather crowds, it was to train those who would see the unseen. As the mantled ones were sent out, the angel lifted his hand and said, "Do not mistake movement for ease. The enemy is not sleeping. He knows what this new season means, and he will rage." And sure enough, darkness began to stir. Old giants rose. Familiar patterns returned, dressed in new clothing. The warfare intensified. But this time, so did the clarity. The mantled ones no longer fought in confusion. They fought with precision, unity, and joy. A strange thing began to happen. Every city the mantled ones entered experienced two fires, one of refinement, removing compromise, exposing lies. One of revival, healing, restoring, awakening. Wherever they walked, decisions had to be made. People either bowed before the fire or were burned by it. The Spirit of the Lord is here to comfort, the angel said. But also to confront. Just before the missions began to flourish, a test swept through the land. Not a test of strength, but of motives. Would they still obey when no one was watching? Would they carry glory without stealing credit? Would they serve without being seen? Some faltered. But many passed, and were promoted in ways no human hand could orchestrate. The angel declared, "This is not a time of elevation by men. It is heaven's era. And only heaven promotes." One by one, the cities awakened. Markets began to prosper again. Fathers returned to families. Corrupt leaders stepped down, and righteous ones took their place. And everywhere, people kept asking the same question, who are these ones and why does peace follow them? The answer echoed from mountain to valley, these are the ones who waited. These are the ones who wept. These are the ones who believed when it hurt. A trumpet sounded. Not from the earth, but from heaven. It reached every corner of the land. It wasn't loud to the ears, but thunderous to the spirit. The mantled ones knew exactly what it meant. They began to gather, at the hill called Zion. Not the physical mountain, but the spiritual seat of authority. It was the place where heaven kissed earth. Children came with tambourines. Prophets came with scrolls. Warriors came with swords not made of steel, but light. And at the center stood the angel. As the people lifted their hands in surrender and song, a new sound erupted. Like rushing water. Like roaring fire. Like every praise ever sung across generations, rising into one moment. Suddenly, a great oil began to fall. It dripped from the heavens, slow, golden, and fragrant. Not messy. Not symbolic. Holy. It fell upon heads. Upon mouths. Upon the feet of those who had been walking in obedience. This was not just anointing for function, it was coronation. You are not just servants, the angel declared. You are sons. You are daughters. And now you are sent. From the skies, a glowing seal appeared, marked with symbols that only the Spirit could interpret. It hovered above the people, then slowly came to rest over their hearts. The seal of the new season, Elion announced. It is the signature of God upon this moment. The enemy cannot erase it. Man cannot counterfeit it. What has been decreed, is done. And in that moment, every person in the crowd knew, they had stepped into something eternal. Something they didn't earn. But something they had been prepared for all along. The angel walked among them one last time. He whispered blessings in ears. He laid hands on hearts. He reminded them of what the scrolls said, you are not called to be known. You are called to make him known. He blessed their homes. He blessed their children. He restored what the enemy had tried to destroy in secret. And then he said, the glory that is coming will not fit in the wineskins of yesterday. Stay soft. Stay yielded. And when the winds shift again, be ready. A whirlwind of light descended. Not wild, intentional. It lifted the angel slowly into the heavens. And as he rose, a sound like bells rang across the sky, the decree has been spoken. The season has shifted. Let the people walk in it. As he disappeared, a great light shone over Zion. And the people. They did not return to their cities the same. They returned with assignment. With authority. With fire in their eyes and purpose in their steps. Weeks later, nations began to take notice. Revivals broke out in cities untouched by faith. Enemies became allies overnight. Wealth that had been held up was suddenly released to build schools, shelters, sanctuaries. Governments unknowingly passed laws that aligned with heaven's heart. And in small rooms, in prayer closets, in forgotten corners of the world, people kept whispering, something has shifted. And it feels like we're finally home. And as the last part of the story closes, a final sentence appears, faintly glowing, on the original scroll, what I decree, no man can reverse. What I open, no man can close. And what I begin, I finish. This is the season of the King. Walk in it.